Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than Jackson White, co-founder, editor-in-chief, Politiscope, TYT Rebel HQ contributor, all-star host, politics and paper. Always fascinating to have his analysis. Top story of the day, we got an update. Cops killed a man over a traffic violation. They are now indicted. Put him up full mass. Cops indicted for fatally shooting a black man during a damn traffic stop. Grand jury has now indicted Stephen Randolph Frederick Jr. and Michael Reinwald, to Mississippi Capitol Police for manslaughter in the still murky shooting death of 25-year-old Jalen Lewis, motorist, in 2022. So Officer Stephen Randolph Frederick Jr. and Michael Reinwald acted, quote, willfully, unlawfully, and feloniously, without malice, without authority of law, with malice, without authority of law, and not necessary self-defense during a traffic stop. So the true bill was obtained in Mississippi today, alleges Lewis and a 21-year-old female passenger were pulled over by Mississippi Capitol Police. This was in Jackson, Mississippi, for a traffic stop, 9 p.m., September 25th, 2022. According to the police report, Frederick and Reinwald told investigators that one of them shot Lewis in self-defense after Lewis drove his car toward them. Lewis was shot in the head and died the next day, leaving behind a 4-year-old daughter, 2-year-old son. Heart goes out, obviously, to this family, to the children who are fatherless now because of the criminal actions of two individuals who were supposed to protect that father. Police report says, no, we were in fear of our lives. He was driving toward us. Typically, you have police reports that will fudge details, but this detail created an absolute get out of jail free card if they pulled it off, but they did not. Upon hearing of the indictment, Lewis's mother, can't imagine what she's going through. Her name is Arkila Lewis, said, quote, I could jump for joy. She has been trying for 3 years to find out why her son's car was stopped by an unmarked police car that night and what led to the shooting. Quote, he was a really good kid. I just want to know what happened. Were the lights on when you pulled my baby over? What was he doing? She said during a press conference covered by WAPT News at New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. This was in 2023, not too long after his death. So Ms. Lewis later said that the woman riding with her son told her that an officer walked toward them with his gun drawn. Quote, my son screamed out, it's the police. He froze. That's when the shots were fired. The indictment does not say which officer shot Lewis. Okay? That's easy. I know exactly who shot him, both of them, period. And here's why. Take off that blue uniform. Because according to the grand jury, They acted outside of the law, had no authority, and did not act in self-defense. So if that's true, why do we consider the uniform that they were unworthy to wear? Because it sounds as if they are acting as private citizens and not agents of law enforcement, which means that if two individuals engage in a felony act and one person kills the victim, what happens in this country, 48 states long? Both of you are charged with the murder. Period. There's more. According to the Mississippi Department of Public Safety, Frederick was allowed to resign March 2023, shortly after crashing his own state-owned vehicle. He was charged with a DUI. He was then employed by the Scott County Sheriff's Department, according to Mississippi Today. Scott County Sheriff Mike Lee said Frederick had been working at his department for about a year when he was notified of the indictment, after which he was suspended without pay. Quote, Stephen has been a good employee and worked without any complaints or incidents. Well, look at that. He commits murder and all of a sudden, he's humble as a church mouse. We were surprised by the indictment. I want you to understand the words of the sheriff. We were surprised by the indictment, Lee said. Ryan Walt has been on administrative leave without pay, has not been actively employed with an agency since 2025, DPS said. Okay, let's go to the sheriff, Mike Lee. Mike Lee suspended the cop for getting indicted, but hired the cop knowing the cop killed this young man. He wasn't surprised that the cop committed murder based on the indictment. He was surprised that a grand jury in Mississippi would ever indict a cop for killing a black man. Why suspend him now, Sheriff? Doesn't make sense to me. Without pay. You hired him. Before his indictment in March, Ryan Walt already faced other charges, 2 aggravated assault. Charges stemming from a traffic stop a month before Lewis's death. They were on a roll. Ryan Walt and Officer Jeffrey Walker pulled over a car in Sinatra, Jordan, August 2022, after he allegedly failed to stop at a red light. Jordan took off. Police chase ensued. And they decided to just shoot into Jordan's vehicle. Sharita Harris, a passenger, innocent, just riding, was shot in the head. Seems to be a pattern. Mississippi grand jury eventually indicted Jordan for felony fleeing and for shooting at the officers, which he denies. Harris says her face is now paralyzed. She was never charged with a crime and is now suing the officers for $3 million, accusing them of excessive force. Her attorney, Carlos Moore, told WJTV News he believes Ryan Walt was the shooter. A grand jury decided in December of 2024 to indict Ryan Walt and Walker, alleging they willfully, unlawfully, feloniously attempted to cause bodily injury to both Jordan and Harris. They got off light. It should have been attempted murder. Meanwhile, state and federal authorities, put them up, are examining what role Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey may have played in the August dismissal of DUI charges against Frederick. Mississippi Today is reporting on this. Bailey already faces intense scrutiny related to the self-described, remember, Goon Squad. We brought it to you. Indisputable. Interviewed the victims. This is as corrupt as a local police department likely gets. If it's not the most corrupt, it's up there. Goon Squad, fixing tickets. We now have a story out there about the sheriff basically having slaves on his farm. And now this. Law enforcement has a cultural issue. Jackson, thoughts?
So, I think that the general atmosphere that we're in right now is ultimately going to provide, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, strong opportunity to really organize on the ground. And I know this is a point that I bring up often, but the reality is that the American public has become too accustomed to gun violence of all kinds. We've already went through the George Floyd protests. We've already seen so many issues and come up with gun violence and all sorts of other issues that we deal with, and nothing really changes, which has a lot to do with why Kamala lost, because the public doesn't really particularly have faith in the Democrats just because they'll throw you a bone every once in a while. But at the end of the day, it's really our responsibility to do something about this. I'm 33 years old right now. I say that a lot, but pretty much all of us in that like mid 20s to 50 plus range, but kind of that mid 20s to 50 range. It's really our turn to step up. A lot of these people who are in positions of power, they're in their 70s, 80s, or maybe they're younger than that, but just that corrupt rotating door. These people are lazy. These people aren't really ready to fight if we unite and come together. So tell your cousin to run for office somewhere, right? Because that's really the only reason any of this is going to change. People need to see results so that we can believe again.
Well said. Well said. We are the change. We are the leaders that we were waiting for. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. Okay, the Pope. He passed away Monday morning, 88 years of age. His last act, giving the Vice President of the United States a lesson about immigrants. Put it up for a mass, about migrants in particular. So Pope Francis passed away early morning, but his last act was to give JD Vance a lesson about migrants. Vance met with Pope Francis in the Vatican on Easter Sunday, Resurrection Day. While that brief meeting appears to have been largely conciliatory in tone, with Vance telling the Pope, quote, "It's good to see you in better health," end quote. Francis' official Easter speech later in the day rebuked MAGA. Didn't seem to, it did. And also Vance, the stance on immigrants and foreign aid, etc. Quote, "How much contempt is stirred up at times towards the vulnerable, the marginalized, and migrants," the Pope wrote in the address. It is interesting, isn't it? Because those who the Pope deal with will say they read the Bible. Apocryphal, but all of it's still there. And then the folks that JD deals with, they proclaim they too read that same Bible. As a matter of fact, they believe in the same Redeemer, Messiah, Christ. But in application, the folk in America that follow MAGA seem to do it quite differently than others. We'll get into it. So the Pope gave a brief greeting to the crowd before another surrogate Archbishop Ravelli read aloud the actual speech. So the address read, quote, "How much contempt is stirred up at times towards the vulnerable, the marginalized, and migrants." The speech read, "I appeal to all those in positions of political responsibility in our world not to yield to the logic of fear, which only leads to isolation from others, but rather to use the resources available to help the needy, to fight hunger, and to encourage initiatives that promote development. These are the weapons of peace, the weapons that build the future instead of sowing seeds of death." I mean, listen, I'm not a religious man, I'm a spiritual guy. But damn, that sounds like stuff that Yahshua, Jesus Christ, actually said and did. Remember, he stopped preaching to feed the multitude because he perceived they were hungry. That's a soup kitchen. Understanding the whole person is not only part of it, it's all of it. And the irony of how this administration has decided to treat individuals who they believe are lesser than them. They're only showing themselves to be small. The Daily Beast reported that on Saturday, the Pope did not attend the Vatican's official meeting with Vance, instead having Cardinal Parolin deliver a lecture on compassion. The Vatican released a statement saying that the meeting included, quote, "an exchange of opinions on the international situation, especially regarding countries affected by war, political tensions, and difficult humanitarian situations. Specific attention to migrants, refugees, and prisoners, the people that Trump, Vance, and MAGA especially do not care about." A statement from the vice president or his office about the discussion omitted the topic of migration, saying Vance discussed, quote, "the plight of persecuted Christian communities around the world, and President Donald Trump's, quote, commitment to restoring world peace." You don't have enough Christians in the world for that. If you're only concerned about saving individuals that may proclaim your faith, you don't have enough of them to achieve world peace. You got to work with everybody. After skipping the official meeting, Pope Francis and JD Vance met Sunday during a brief interaction. The Pope has been open about his disapproval of Trump's anti-immigrant agenda and mass deportation operation, in which international students who have exercised their free speech abilities, as well as immigrants and asylum seekers, have been detained in recent weeks. So in February, Pope Francis wrote a letter to U.S. bishops condemning Trump's deportation operation, and specifically referenced the Catholic, which means universal, concept of Ordo Amoris, order of love, which Vance has pointed to in defense of mass deportations. Ironically, on Sunday, Pope Francis made one last call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Quote, "This is cruelty. This is not war." Hearts and prayers to the family, friends, and those who follow Pope Francis. All right. We got a lot of Catholics in the world. A lot of folk claim they're Christian. A lot of individuals who listen to the Pope in the world. The administration has managed to offend virtually every demographic I can think of except racist white men. That is the reality of now. Jackson, thoughts?
My
You on
bad.
mute,
I
brother.
had it on mute. Yeah, well, my bad. I brought this other tab up. But really in terms of how the evangelical right wing in this country treats religion is kind of similar to the way that the Roman state treated religion, and that the gods represented the goods of the state. And so God represents the good of the American state, and everything that advances the United States also advances God's word. This is nothing new. People have been doing this ever since civilization has been a thing, and likely before that, in terms of how we come together through collective ideas. How else could we get people to sacrifice hours and hours out of their day to build these monumental structures, unless we all thought that it was to the glory of some kingdom, or whatever it may be throughout time. That's the same way that Republicans treat Christianity. It's just a way to advance the American agenda. And so, of course, the Pope had something real to say about migrants and empathy and compassion, because that's not what evangelical Christianity, at least in this country as it pertains to the political movement, that's just not what it's about. It's about power, it's about dominance, it's about authority, and it's really not any deeper than that.
Yeah, it's politics, as usual. And I'm reminded of my personal journey. Increase my consciousness, increase my conscious awareness, and attempt to do good to those that you meet. Real simple. That's it. These individuals have managed to actually go to the opposite side and do real evil, actual negative to human beings. All right. No updates, I promise you, because Trump and Vance don't give a damn. Okay. Well, workers had to endure white men running around with, a noose to hang them. Put it up, full mass. Imagine going to work. You're a firefighter. You work at the fire department. Firefighters chased a black coworker with a noose at work. Jordan Hastings and Jay Droney, two volunteer firefighters from Millville, Delaware, are receiving criticism, and they have been fired and charged with hate crimes. This is how you do it. On April 9th, 2024, Delaware State Police were notified of the incident by the Millville Volunteer Company Administration. It happened 14 months earlier when Jay Droney, 27, of Millville, and Jordan Hastings, 23, of Delmar, chased a fellow firefighter around the station while carrying a rope tied in the shape of a noose, according to the cops. The Millville administration said they first heard about it last week. This is actually an amazing and ironic story. So Droney made a racist comment toward the victim as they chased him. All right, that qualifies your hate crime. The noose should. That's according to the cops. Investigators also said Droney made additional racist comments to the victim on multiple occasions after the first incident. Warrants were obtained for Droney and Hastings on Tuesday. They turned themselves in and faced charges of hate crimes, conspiracy, harassment, but both were dismissed from the fire company. Delaware House Speaker Melissa Minor Brown, Majority Leader Carrie Evelyn Harris, and Majority Whip Ed Osinski issued a joint statement agreeing, quote, lynching is not a joke. Can I just say it's sad in 2025 that 3 politicians signing a document that says lynching is not a joke is newsworthy? But it is, because there are so many in power who believe lynching is a joke. Adding that many of their family members, quote, lived in fear of and fought against lynching. Quote, it is something that Black Americans still, unfortunately, live in fear of. They said, quote, no one, and especially not someone who puts their safety on the line to protect others, should ever be subjected to the kind of hateful and threatening behavior that a Millville volunteer fire company employee went through at the hands of his colleagues. End quote. It's unclear why so much time transpired between the actual incident and the reporting of it. Remember, we got a 14-month delay. 14 months. A portion of the fire company statement reads, quote, MVFC identified 2 volunteer members accused of racially harassing behavior towards an employee. As a result of that internal investigation, fire company has decided to permanently revoke the memberships of the 2 volunteer members. They are no longer members of the fire company. It is important to note that the Delaware State Police has arrested the 2 individuals connected to the matter, both charged with hate crimes. The 14 months is a question. I grant you that. It's a real question. We don't have that answer yet. But here's what is not a question. When the right power or powers that be found out that this happened, it didn't matter that it happened 14 months ago. You see, to me, that's a glass half full dynamic. That's a very beautiful thing, because typically that's the reason to ignore it even more for many. See, 14 months is still within the 2-year statute of limitation. You have the ability to prosecute. They investigated, found it to be true, so it didn't matter if it happened 14 months ago or yesterday. Delaware police, they get involved immediately. They arrest them. And then the fire company, not only do they fire the individuals, they release a statement and they go above and beyond. Not that 2 individuals have been dismissed. We don't discuss personnel matters beyond that. No. Here's who they are. Here's what they did. And by the way, they were arrested and hate crime charges were affixed. All right, Jackson, rarely do we have a story that gave everything that we would typically fight for: justice, an apology, redemption, right? But this story does, except for the 14-month delay. That's an issue. We'll figure that out at some point. What say you?
Yeah, except for that, I guess we can't have everything perfect, especially in an environment like this where just the appetite for racism and segregation and white supremacy has been increasing for over a decade now. So, that absolutely plays into people feeling comfortable that they can do stuff like this at all. So it's very important that we're able to see some justice and see some consequences for things like this, just to make it a little bit easier to reel it in. I think that one of the good things, I mean, it's horrible that Donald Trump and everyone in his administration is completely incompetent, but it's also kind of good that they're completely incompetent because they can only do so much of their sinister plans. You look at how they're carrying out their mass deportation. Sure, they're sending wrong, they're sending wrong people to El Salvador out of incompetency, but they can't really deport 10 million plus people. They're showing that obviously they don't have that ability. So it's good that we can see some consequences. And that's why I say, again, it's up to us to continue to push for it.
That's right. And once again, it came down to leadership. The right leader heard the story, and everything else happened from there. We got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. Not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of making a difference. Obviously AOC and all that, but there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd, but it is kind of look cool. Who has Legos? Oh no, he's taking apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you can hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Shore.
Dr. Phil.
Adam Green drop by.
Charlemagne.
Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Jay.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated? Or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition. How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like how is that like at one level it's like, good, what we're talking about it now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
Yes. Congratulations on all your success. You guys are everywhere.
It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both worked to achieve. And I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, I like making you happy.
I didn't know about
This
that.
is a happy Anna Kasparian.
What's up?
You're welcome, YouTube.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
Welcome back. Always good to be with you. I'm going to read some of these comments. Thank you for joining. Purple Rain Dragon says Rankin County is a hotbed of corruption and racism. Yes, still is today, and hopefully light will shine through. Third Eye Open too. Big up, Indisputable Family. Big up to you too. Thank you for joining. Mac and Stitch, the doctor is in. Greatly appreciate your support as always. Luann, hey Jackson. Luann didn't even
what
say
up,
hello.
Luann? Right, she didn't even say hi to you. She just said, "What's up? What's up, Luann? Hope you having a good."
She came to my house.
Oh yeah,
asked for the guest, and
that's what she did, man.
It's okay.
That's what she did. It's all good.
All
What's up, Luann?
No, brother. What I have, you have, brother. I'm just playing with you. Always good to have you check in. I think this is Signart Burgess. Rest in power. May true justice prevail. I concur. Gene Barron. I'm atheist, but RIP to the Pope. He was sincerely a good and decent man. He sure was. And, we're all brothers and sisters, every single one of us. It doesn't matter race, community, affiliation, religion. It doesn't. And that's the part that has been dismissed from our humanity in the ranks of politics. Snack Panther, this Pope was pretty damn dope, spreading love and hope. Saw JD Vance and said nope. All right, I like what you did. Love 18 white girls. Some cops are actually being held accountable for their cowardice. It's about damn time. Yep. And Chris Shuggy subscribed with Prime for 44 months. Greatly appreciate you. All right. Okay, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Girl, you better go on and leave me alone.
No, you better go on. Boy, I'm intimidated by you, please.
Am I intimidated by you with your big ass?
Look at you.
Yeah, look at you.
Look at you. Fake hair, gold teeth, nasty ass bitch.
My hair ain't fake, you white mother bitch.
Nasty. It's nasty.
I don't give a your hair is nasty.
Then let's get an assault.
Your hair is nasty.
She needs to.
You too.
You didn't wash your hair.
You don't know what the it does. You ugly fat butch.
We have a code 58, cackle of Karens. Once again, put it up for a mass. So a cackle of Karens get into it with a black woman while in line. Obviously, you see how things get nasty. And I want to bring your attention to something. Okay, and keep the picture up. I believe there's a secret training institute for OG Karens. They respond in unison 100% of the time. I have never seen two Karens or more together and one Karen tries to reason with the other one. They always respond the same. The training is happening some damn where. Jackson, I know people will say I'm a conspiracy theorist for believing in such a thing, but weirder things have happened.
Weirder things have happened. It's just another day at the supermarket with some sassy ladies. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was thinking while I was watching this. I was like, it's just another day, just a typical thing that you might see. At least no shots, real shots was fired and no blows was thrown. But it could have been worse, but I was kind of entertained by it. I can't lie. I kind of like that.
Yeah, no Karens and non-Karens were injured during the making of the story. All right, well, damn. Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, shared additional classified information with additional people. Put them up full mass. We got an update. Hegseth shared information on the Yemen strikes with his wife, his brother, maybe more. According to sources close to the matter, Pete Hegseth shared information ahead of the strikes in a Signal chat with wife and brother. Pete, get off of Signal chat, sir. Just get off. All right? This comes hardly a month after we reported on the news that Hegseth disclosed secret war plans in a group chat with the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. Hegseth has now responded. Here it is.
What do you want to say, sir, about the Signal chat controversy?
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't get back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
Sir, you're really bad at this. I'm disappointed, to be quite honest. Put him up again. Sir, you are in the company of some of the most prolific liars this country has ever produced. You have to get your ish together, sir. Everybody saw through what you just did. It seems silly. Trump is going to fire you, not because of the classified information stuff, but because you don't know how to lie better. All right, here's what we know. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth used his personal phone to send information about U.S. military operations in Yemen to a 13-person Signal group chat, including his wife and his brother. Two sources with knowledge of the matter confirmed to NBC News. Now, why is he doing this? Why are they included? This is what happens when you give someone a position that they never earned, never deserved, never should have gotten it, didn't even really have to interview for it. He's in over his head, but he wants to impress people. He wants to impress people. That's my opinion so far. He did something really important. He made bombs happen in Yemen. He did a big thing. Wants people to know, I assume. He did so after an aide had warned him to be careful not to share sensitive information on an unsecure communication system before the operation, the sources said. The Times cited 4 unnamed sources. Some of them the Times reported, said that the information Hegseth sent in the second chat, such as the flight schedule of the FA-18 planes being used, appeared to be similar to information he had shared in the Signal chat reported by the editor of The Atlantic. One source confirmed to NBC News. The Secretary of Defense put actual soldiers, actual Americans in danger. This could have went south in a detrimental way. Does he care? No, he's still lying about it. Hegseth came under scrutiny last month after it was revealed that his wife, former Fox News producer, attended sensitive Defense Department meetings with British and NATO leaders. Jennifer Hegseth is not a Pentagon employee. Yes. His boss is Donald Trump. who brings in his girlfriend to do the same damn thing. So Trump can't hold Hegseth accountable to not do silly, immature, and negligent activities. Sean Parnell, the chief DOD spokesperson, denied that Hegseth had shared classified information. Quote, there was no classified information in any Signal chat, he said on X. Anna Kelly, a White House deputy press secretary, played down the significance of the second group chat. Quote, no matter how many times the legacy media tries to resurrect the same non-story, they can't change the fact that no classified information was shared, she said in a statement. In both instances, Hegseth used his personal phone rather than his official phone, according to the sources. Hegseth spoke to reporters Monday morning from the White House. When asked about the second Signal chat, he attacked both the press and leakers. But notice, he actually never denied the allegations. Now, there's a breaking update. NPR is reporting today that they have learned that the White House has begun the search for a new Secretary of Defense because of how he lies. No, I don't know why. But obviously, if you get fired, Jackson, if you get fired for incompetence under the Trump administration.
Yeah, you must have really done something special. And he did. Pete Hegseth really has done something special. And, this caused a lot of uproar that people hadn't gotten over, which ultimately is the reason why they're pushing for this. But at the end of the day, Pete Hegseth got that job because Donald Trump enjoyed watching him on television.
Yep.
That's the only reason he got the job. It's not any deeper than that. And as you pointed out after we watched the intro video, yeah, he is really bad at this. And it's not just Pete, but it's all of them. Like anytime they get caught up in something, they have no accountability. They have no willingness or concept of the fact not only that they can make a mistake or that they have made a mistake, but that we saw it. We're aware of it. Like anything that happens, they're just like, oh, you didn't see what you saw. Like shut up, just shut up and don't worry about it. But these are very serious matters because Pete Hegseth is the head of the American military. That's his job. Like it's the largest employer in the country. There's so much at stake here, and you're just willy-nilly sending all this information out. And then when you're confronted about it, again, instead of addressing it in any kind of meaningful way, you're just like, shut up. Like, okay, man, but that's what they all do. And we still got 3 years and over 3 years left of this. We're just getting started.
That part. All right. I got to take a quick break. We got more on the other side. Indisputable stick and stay.
There's one reason why healthcare is so messed up in this country, and that's because of our money in politics situation. Because those industries that are deeply corrupt can just simply purchase all of Congress. And then the problem never gets fixed because of that bribery. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's greed, and it's the greed of politicians, right? I mean, so everything they do is dictated by the donors and the money. I mean, I shouldn't say that, not everything. A lot of what they do is, and I do think that there are people who do things in spite of the fact that they have to raise money and often don't get that money and often don't win because they don't, but are in there fighting for ideals that they believe in. Bernie Sanders is certainly an example of someone like that.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
You want to know the 3 shows that I'm watching lately? Shogun, Anjin-san. Those guys are badasses. Then you go to the Duttons, Yellowstone. Now they don't always do it right, but they are badasses. But the 3rd show has the biggest badasses of all, the Young Turks. Live every weekend. Sick that I was so good. God damn it. Okay, live. Weekdays at 6 o'clock Eastern. That's what I meant. Anjin-san.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. Mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Thank you to everyone. Cray Souffle. Exactly, Dr. Richie. Hegseth's own aides warned him not to do this. He did it anyway. He's going to get the serious boot sooner than later. Good riddance to him and now his whole damn family. Yeah. Trump will figure out how to replace him with someone equally as bad. I know that's hard to believe. Pope Francis. David Morris. This Pope made good use of his position to spread important messages. He did. Donald James X. Oh no, cackle of Karen strikes again. They come, they take, they leave like a swarm. That's right. Habar L is like mother and daughter Karen. That's right. Peter Brooks, unqualified and proved it. I know. And when B.P. Harris was running for president, they cared so much about qualifications, right? And that's right. Winston, 121-880. Good on the fire chief for standing with justice instead of sweeping it under the rug. That's right. Winston also says, a group of Karens is called an HOA. All right. This is a story beyond the headline. Very sad story. A Black federal worker dies after being stressed out over layoffs. Maryland. In Maryland, the family of Monique Lockett, a federal worker who died at her job 2 months ago, believes her stress and uncertainty about the current White House administration's sweeping overhaul of federal agencies contributed to their loved one's death. Ms. Lockett died on the 18th of February at a job at SSA, Social Security Administration. She was on the campus just outside of Baltimore. She walked into the building, fell asleep at her desk, never woke up. That's according to a police report cited by CNN. She worked there for 25 years, was just 5 years from retirement. Now, while this is one story, and I have a lot of additional details, please know this is a microcosm of the macrocosm. I receive emails consistently from people around the country who feel the pain, the burden, the pressure, the stress of what may happen. One mother shared with me that she could no longer pay for her son's college tuition because if or when she gets the axe, she has no retirement. She has to now go into survival mode for her and the family just because of the recklessness of this administration. In the weeks leading up to her death, Monique's sister, Kasha, said Monique was deeply troubled by how Elon Musk and his agenda as head of the DOGE, or Dodge, as I call the department, to carry out major federal spending cuts, mass layoffs, et cetera, how it may impact her job. Quote, my sister had a lot of anxiety around the changes that were happening in other agencies and inevitably what would happen to Social Security, she told CNN. She was concerned about the overall well-being of everybody that she worked with because it was stressful for a lot of people. Yeah, and she also put in 25 years, 5 years from retirement. I'm sure she had colleagues in a very similar situation she cared for deeply. According to a spokesperson for the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, Maryland, Ms. Lockett died of hypertensive cardiovascular disease, which causes plaque buildup in the arteries. Monique's sister said that her sister also had high blood pressure and was obese. 2019 medical journal cited by the National Institutes of Health states that chronic psychological stress can increase the risk of the disease as well as strokes and also heart attacks. It's unclear what triggered Ms. Lockett precisely. Fatal health complications happened on the day of her death, but you cannot be for sure what was cause and effect. But the sister believes stress might have been a factor. I agree. She noted that Monique was also feeling undervalued at her job in her final days. Quote, it was very upsetting to hear. It was very upsetting to her to hear that what they did wasn't valued. What they did wasn't important, and certainly that what they did was wasteful. You know, it's so sad. The reason Monique feels this way or felt that way at the time is because she identified her value, at least in some part, connected to the service that she provided via that position. Many of us do that. And it's not wrong to do. And all of a sudden you have Johnny-come-latelys who really don't know what they're doing, nor do they care, marginalizing you and making others believe that you should be marginalized. Co-workers told police that Monique did not display visible signs of distress before she fell asleep at her desk. Paramedics spent about 40 minutes trying to revive her. They were unsuccessful. The 53-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene. Quote, what happened to Monique was truly sad and tragic, literally shook me to the core, an SS employee told CNN. A former SS worker stated that agency employees have received multiple emails from the Trump administration inquiring about their productivity levels, which has had a whiplash effect on the workforce. Quote, is creating a level of anxiety that's making it hard to do their jobs. These are good people who are being traumatized, former employee said. Please understand, and I mean this for those who may be in a stressful work environment or other environment. If it costs you your peace, it costs too much. If it costs you your peace, it costs too much. This lady is dead. Family loves her. We don't live our lives out here. We live our lives inside. If what's happening inside doesn't feel right every day, what else do you have? We have to live our lives in here. Monique was an information technology specialist. She worked at the Office of Systems Architecture, SSA's office, which creates databases for sensitive data managed by the agency. Former colleagues said she was, quote, one of our best and, quote, very familiar with the existing data repositories that we have at the agency. In the months since Donald Trump took power in the White House, administration officials have granted several of Elon Musk representatives access to sensitive data on millions of Americans to facilitate the quasi-agency's purported purpose of discovering whether fraud is happening in the SSA payment system. Trump has stated that he will not cut Social Security, Medicaid, or Medicare benefits. But in March, In a March 11th fact check report from the White House, the administration reported that SSA has made an estimated $72 billion in improper payments between 2015 and 2022. So last month, billionaire U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick remarked that if SSA missed sending a payment to his 94-year-old mother-in-law, she would simply wait until next month and wouldn't call in to complain, using her example to suggest that, quote, a fraudster always makes the loudest noise, end quote, and only someone defrauding the system would complain about a missed payment instead. The Daily Beast reports that records indicate Lambert Lutnick's mother-in-law lives with him and his wife in their Upper East Side penthouse, just like a billionaire. Yeah. I mean, if my mother misses it, she's not going to call. She's going to wait. You think these individuals are gaslighting, and sometimes they are, obviously. But sometimes they are this disconnected from the fact that we have senior citizens who have worked their entire lives having to figure out, can I buy bread or medicine? Pulling pennies together, making miracles happen every month. While individuals like him, they have no peers in that socioeconomic scenario. Nor does he care to. Elon Musk voiced his disapproval of the SSA during an interview. This was February 28th. He was on the Joe Rogan show, calling the agency, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. In an interview with Fox Business, Musk said, quote, the waste and fraud and entitlement spending is the big one to eliminate. Musk, you are an expert in understanding what a Ponzi scheme is, sir. However, this administration is not. Does it require remedy, repair, and resurrection? Yes. But a Ponzi scheme. Come on. All right, Jackson, thoughts?
I think one of the more profound statements that you've made that I've heard you say that's very true is that we live our lives inside. It really is true. And one of the reasons that I bring that back up is that Elon Musk, you know, the man who's causing all of this trouble for people, you know, spent $300 million something to be in the position that he's in. One of the statements that he made recently, he said that empathy is a weakness, that one of the biggest weaknesses of the West is empathy.
He sure did.
And it's what a projection that is. You know, he doesn't have the ability to feel and understand other people. And so he doesn't care that, you know, this is happening to people. He doesn't care that people don't know how they're going to pay their bills or where they're going to get money to pay their insurance from. He doesn't care that people count on their Social Security checks. All he's interested in is getting more government subsidies and eliminating the federal investigations into both himself and his companies, which he's effectively done at this point. That's all he cares about. So, you know, when he says that empathy is a weakness, of course, that's wrong. Empathy is one of the greatest strengths that anybody can have. I mean, that's been some of the greatest lessons I've learned in life were from moments that I lacked empathy, where I wasn't thinking about somebody else and I caused issues because of it. Or maybe I hurt somebody because of it. You know, so at least if you feel some guilt and some shame, at least you know you're not like Elon Musk, because that man feels no guilt and shame about anything he's ever done. So, you know, it's really just a shame to watch all of this destruction unfold at the likes of somebody like him.
I'm glad you brought up that statement. I remember when he made that statement, and I thought to myself, I said, wow, that's actual evil. So people think evil is bad. Well, evil is the promotion of nobody else but self. That's evil. And his world, he is everybody's superior. And the great dynamic of empathy is that it allows you to have these other experiences like love. You cannot love without empathy. It allows you to have these other experiences like forgiveness, decency, humanity. So we literally have people who lack the full range of emotional connective ability and brag about it. This is our current state. All right. Tough story. Innocent man, 30 years in prison for something he never did. Put it up full mask. 30 years. LA man spent 30 years in prison over a gang murder. He has been found factually innocent of gang murder. On Friday, April 18th, a judge found Mr. Humberto Beto Duran, 51, factually innocent of a 1993 East LA gang murder. He served 30 years for a crime he did not commit. The irony is there are people who have committed actual murder and never served 30 years in prison. He did nothing. Nearly 3 decades ago, Beto was convicted of killing 17-year-old Albert Gonzalez based on a single eyewitness who testified. He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. At the time, he was only 19. According to a report by the LA Times, Beto had known Gonzalez growing up. Quote, I was surprised, he told the Times. Quote, I wasn't even aware that he had any problems with anybody as to why they would go kill him. So Beto's lawyer purportedly told the Times that his client was framed for the murder of Gonzalez. Quote, a detective told me, you ain't never getting out. And I looked at him and I had a smirk and I said, we'll see who has the last laugh. Beto told KTLA. I will never forget those words. So the path to having his name cleared, a lot of nuances, ups and downs. So Beto told his family, Beto and his family, who never lost faith, spent years reaching out to various innocent projects, etc. Then in 2018, a woman named Megan Baca, who is now the director of the California Innocence Advocates, reached out to Beto and ultimately started him on his path to parole in 2022. With that angel helping him, the single eyewitness ended up recanting her testimony. His case was vacated in 2024. We have more to the story, but eyewitness recanted. That's it. Whoever coerced the eyewitness should be arrested. Those who allowed the coercion should be arrested. The attorneys who engaged in the corruption should be disbarred and charged. Real simple. This is a crime. The LA Times reported that the eyewitness, who was 17, manipulated, said that deputies had insisted that she name Mr. Duran Beto as the killer. Quote, I know Beto is innocent. The Times reported she wrote in a sworn declaration, 2022. Quote, my role in sending an innocent man to prison has haunted me for the past 27 years. Look what they made that child go through. She was a baby. They were strategic, corrupt, didn't give a damn about what they sentenced her to while sentencing him. Beto told KTLA News that he believes the system is broken. Quote, I was going to go to the Marines and become a parole agent. And that dream was taken away from me. His attorney, Jared Adams, said he's thankful to the DA, Nathan Hochman, for making the right decision. He's now focusing on his future. Quote, I want to start working in electrical and do my own company and push forward. I want to enjoy life. I think I deserve that. End quote. His civil case is still pending, and he will find out on July 17th how much he could be compensated for the time spent behind bars. It'll never be enough, no matter the money. Jackson, you know, when we say the system is broken, I take issue with that. I understand when we say it, I understand the spirit behind it. But see, the system is meant or was created, developed, and executed to always protect the powerful and vilify those who they believe have no voice. The system is actually working quite well. We have to break this system, is what I posit. What say you?
100%. The system works the way that it was designed. And for the most part, the most powerful people in society end up rigging the system eventually, which is why, you know, you got to stay active, which is why the public's got to stay on it, particularly if you're lucky enough to live in a democratic society at all. But, you know, as you pointed out, there's just no amount of money that can be given to this man that can make up for how much time he lost. I mean, he was in prison for basically as long as I've been alive. You know, how many people didn't get to have him? How many experiences was he and those people robbed of? This is another miscarriage of justice. I mean, it's good that he got out, but again, how is he ever really going to be able to adapt to the world in full? I mean, he'll do his best, but he's going to need so much assistance, so much help just to be able to navigate out here like a normal citizen.
Yeah.
So it's not like if you just give him a bunch of money, he'll just be able to pick right up and live like a normal person. He's been in prison for decades. So, I mean, he's never going to be able to fully move past this, or maybe he will. If he can, he's an incredibly strong individual. But he's got to be to have made it this far.
Yeah, I have a saying that I tell my college students when they're searching for their message. What are they going to do? And I always say, if you find your mess and you put age on it, that becomes your message. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. we can do this together and serve our audience. And yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT! TYT! The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
People who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Let me read these great comments. Salary_dragon. Shaggy had a better defense than Head Sweat. I love the Head Sweat day. It wasn't me. Yep. CDE 71954. If I do not get my SS check, I will call and check on it right away. I will not wait. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's your money. Nostra Science, the felt stress from the far-right racists lashing out at all good people, being cruel to them, and the related dehumanizing, Q-MAGA human folly of the counterproductive Trump administration knows no bounds. That's right. Donald James X, we can't give power to people like Elon who have no empathy. Yeah. Tyler Hackner, empathy is one of the greatest traits you can have. That's right, Todd. That's right. David Moore's history will not remember Donald Trump favorably. You are correct. The art bends towards righteousness. And Peter Brooks, Hegseth, he needs to work for a sales center since he likes to talk so much. That's a good one. I like that. All right. Well, we got some news, people. In the midst of tariffs and people who voted for Trump losing their businesses, their farms, their car dealerships, their money. Only 3% of Trump supporters regret voting for Trump. That's according to a CNN analysis. Let's go to it.
I mean, this is the big question, right? I hear all these stories, all these articles. All the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. What are we talking about? Trump voters looking back at 2024, we got a new poll out. The poll was conducted this month. What percentage would change their vote to a different candidate? We're talking just 2%, just 2%. That's not even a wide spot on the road. And then there's this additional 1% who say they would rather not vote. We're talking overall under 5% might or would have changed their vote. Does this look similar or different from back in 2017, looking at 2016? Well, in February of 2017, 4% of Trump voters say they'd shift their vote. That's actually slightly more than the 3% this time around. So, you look back, you say, okay, there's these Trump voters who really regret their vote. Historically speaking, they really don't regret their vote.
Put it up full mass. All due respect to CNN, please stop talking about polling data as if it is a fact. in social science. You poll less than 1% of voters, your margin of error is typically between 3 to 5%, maybe more. And you're talking to Trump supporters. They're not going to say, yeah, we regret it. I know we're only a couple of months in. No. Give them a little more time. I really don't buy the numbers, but they really don't matter at this point. These are not predictions. Remember, polls are not predictions. It's just a snapshot of a select group. So CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton shot down the narrative that people who voted for President Donald Trump are beginning to regret their decision months into his presidency. He cited the YouGov poll released this month that showed that less than 5% of Trump voters would change their 2024 decision. According to the survey, 2% would change their vote to another candidate and another 1% would not vote. This is when you look at the crosstabs of the data. The crosstabs of the data. How did you weigh the polling data? What was your percentage? How did you weigh the demographic data, including age, race, gender, socioeconomic background, etc.? Did you over qualify African-American males because they did overperform in that arena slightly, but you have to now overrepresent that in the polling data, etc.? Okay. If folks, quote, if folks got to be able to redo their vote that they had back in 2024, would the result be any different? I doubt it would be. I doubt if would be, or it would still be extremely close. The bottom line is, all this talk of Trump voters regretting their voters or their vote in the numbers, it really just doesn't show up. And to say it, noting the results for voters who supported then Vice President Kamala Harris were similar. Sir, you're starting to sound like a Kool-Aid drinker. I'm just talking to you, man, buddy to buddy. Quote, the bottom line is, if there's some idea out there that Trump voters are going around saying, man, I wish I had voted for Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump. And to say it, the numbers say that is a fanciful universe. It really, for the most part, does not exist. Yeah, he don't drink the Kool-Aid. Sir, one poll, you have made all of these factual conclusions a couple of months in. The fact that you're on national news citing a poll of regret voters 2 months into a presidential administration is the only fact that everyone needs to remember. Have you ever done it before? All right, Jackson, thoughts?
Well, it's not even just that, but a lot of the polls that have been taken on like Trump voters or Republicans' feelings on the economy or how he's handling this or how he's handling that will show all different types of things to consider. So you're right. This is just one poll, but at the same time, Donald Trump does, in terms of that cult that he does have a solid portion that will never leave his side, no matter what, and who are going to worship him forevermore. But yeah, overall, Donald Trump is not popular. There's a lot of people who voted for him who, in fact, are not cult members. And especially as these next several years tick on by, he's just going to become more and more unpopular because he's just incapable of dealing with anything. And more importantly than his incompetence, he doesn't care. He just doesn't care. So it's going to get worse for him.
Yeah, he's an actual real life villain. All right.
For real.
Jackson, always a pleasure, dear brother. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Yeah, always good to be here with you. Y'all can check me out at YouTube at Politics and Paper. That's youtube.com/@politicsandpaper. And just catch all my content there. Always good to be here with you.
Always good to have you. Thank you, my friend. All right. Remember, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.